and welcome to ADCES's podcast, The Huddle, Conversations with the Diabetes Care Team. In each episode, we speak with guests from across the diabetes care space to bring you perspectives, issues, and updates that elevate your role and inform your practice. My name is Dana Moreau, and I oversee Dana Tech and Digital Products here at the Association of Diabetes Care and Education Specialists. Before we begin today, it's super important to note the information in this podcast is for informational purposes only and may not be appropriate or applicable for your individual circumstances. This podcast does not provide medical or professional advice and is not a substitute for consultation with a healthcare professional. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Today, we're joined by ADCES member Gary Scheiner. Gary is the owner and clinical director of Integrated Diabetes Services, an international practice based just outside of Philadelphia, specializing in intensive insulin therapy and advanced education for children and adults. He has been a certified diabetes care and education specialist for 25 years and has had type 1 diabetes for 35 years, so he knows what he's talking about. ADCES is lucky to have Gary as the co-chair of this year's Diabetes Technology Conference. He's joining us today to talk about all of the exciting things happening at this year's Diabetes Technology Conference, which takes place in December, the 1st and the 2nd in Chicago. Gary, welcome to the Huddle.
Thanks, Dana.
I know I gave a little bit of your background, but is there any more information you want to tell the audience about yourselves and, again, the Diabetes Tech Conference in general and why you're part of it?
Well, I guess for both professional and personal reasons, I love to try out all of the new devices that launch in the diabetes space. Some of them are approved for type 1 patients, some are not. So I do some off-label stuff on myself, but it gives me a good perspective and honest perspective on, who's going to be best served by some of these things. I think last count, I've used something like 36 different insulin pumps.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Diabetes Technology Conference? I think this is your 3rd year in attendance, and sort of why it was created. Really, what purpose does this serve for healthcare providers?
Well, it's my 2nd year as co-chair of this meeting, and I feel that this is one of the most important services that ADCES is able to provide for its members is access to information and some training on the technology aspects of diabetes care. Both in terms of providing care and education for our clients, we really need to be up to speed on technologies. And I heard it phrased years ago by somebody who said, when they bring their car in for repairs, the mechanic is certified on pretty much everything under the hood. And when you go to your healthcare provider for treatment of a disease state, typically they don't know a lot about the technologies. And in diabetes in particular, there's so many technologies we use. It's really important that we understand these technologies, how to use them effectively, how to train patients on how to use them safely. What I'm most excited about is not the meeting itself, it's Chicago. Chicago is an amazing city. The Miracle Mile, Michigan Avenue shopping is spectacular. I mean, just the best, they've got upscale, they got downscale stores. It's an amazing shopping experience. Gino's Deep Dish Pizzas, it's incredible. So if you get a chance to get out of the hotel for a while and head to to Gino's, I would recommend it. Plus, my favorite popcorn in the world is at O'Hare Airport at Nuts on Clark. Tremendous popcorn. So there are lots of things to be excited about for this meeting.
And I think the other thing too, just because ADCES is located in Chicago, so something we should mention is that Chicago is decorated spectacularly for the holiday. So that's one more reason. And we really appreciate the plug for Chicago. We who live here love it. So,
yeah.
But what about in terms of then the conference itself? We are ADCES focused specifically or typically on the diabetes care and education specialists, but I know we've all talked about this for a while. There really is a need for everyone to have a basic to intermediate understanding of diabetes technologies that their patients are wearing or requesting. So who do you think really will get the biggest benefit out of this type of conference?
It's a great question. As diabetes care and education specialists, this is our field. This is our wheelhouse. And it's what separates us from all the other healthcare providers. We're the ones who people come to when they really want to get good information, good training, good consultation. So anybody who is working with people with diabetes would benefit from this, particularly nurses, dietitians, social workers, exercise specialists. If you work with patients with diabetes, there's a lot to be learned. One of the things we're doing at this year's conference for the first time is we're having two separate tracks. Because I know in the last couple of years, the meeting's always been sold out. It's very popular. But something that people commented about, some of them felt that the material was too basic for them. They wanted things that were more challenging, where they could really expand their skill set. But we had just as many people who said it was too complicated for them, that the material was too advanced. So this year, we're running two tracks simultaneously. One track is going to cover things on a more basic side, and the other is going to cover much more advanced types of concepts. So now it doesn't really matter if you have no experience at all. You can come to this conference and feel very comfortable with the material. It'll be presented at a pace, and the information itself is going to lend itself to people who don't have a lot of background with technologies. But for those who are already kind of involved using technologies, now there's stuff that's going to even challenge them and introduce them to some new and exciting things they may not have even thought of before. So I think it's going to meet the needs of the attendees extremely well. And there will be some sessions that will apply to everybody, but all of the breakout type sessions are going to be broken down into a basic level and an advanced level. And I guess everybody can kind of determine for themselves what's going to be most appropriate. So no matter who you are, if you work with patients with diabetes, you're sure to get a lot out of this meeting.
I know in the years past, some of the most popular sessions were the hands-on device training sessions. Can you talk a little bit about how those are usually structured and what people can expect to get out of them?
Yeah, that's another, I guess, unique thing about this particular conference is the attendees have an opportunity, if they want it, to actually try out some of the devices, particularly the different CGM type devices. With the pumps, there's not as much hands-on because it's hard to get, insulin pumps for 200 people, but there's still opportunities for more hands-on demonstrations and learning about the different pumps, the infusion devices, the connected pens, the software, the apps. So whether you're actually wearing and using the device is almost irrelevant.
Something else, too, that I think you get out of this. I mean, there's a lot of information available on diabetes technology. What are the benefits of really being here on site in person to get this type of training?
Well, for one thing, the networking opportunity, to be with other clinicians, like-minded clinicians who are really immersed in the technology, seeing what they're doing, learning about how their experiences with it. There's going to be a lot of focus this year on not just collecting data, but what to do with it. And we always emphasize getting the information, but now we're really going to take a deeper dive into the various reports and other data that can be generated from the systems and how to analyze them, what kind of information to extract, and how to apply it to the patient's care, as well as meeting their educational needs. We're doing a side-by-side session called Speed Dataing. I love the name of that. We're going to have one session that's more basic oriented and one session more advanced, but we're going to be looking at actual patient data reports using a variety of systems. And one thing about this conference is we're not just locked into one particular type of device. We're going to be looking at information from all the different, pumps and meters and sensors and pens and apps and a variety of software applications. You'll get a chance to get some hands-on experience with each of those. And beyond that, we're going to be looking at not just the data aspect, but also the cognitive, emotional aspect of not just the patient's interaction with technology, but us as clinicians, how it affects us and how we can handle it without becoming overwhelmed and be able to interact more effectively with patients from that standpoint.
I love that topic. So I'm looking forward to being involved or sitting in on that session. What are some of the other sessions that are going on that, you're most excited about this year that, again, may have been different from last year, aside from the data and the behavioral health, which are both great topics?
Things are changing pretty quickly in the diabetes landscape. Automated insulin delivery is becoming all the rage for anybody who's using insulin in general. And we have newer systems on the market now we're going to be exploring a variety of different automated insulin delivery options. Get into some details about how they function, how they operate, what variables are there for us to be able to negotiate with and adjust on the patient's behalf. We'll be covering basic adjustment options as well as more advanced ones in the various sessions. We'll also be exploring some of the non-FDA approved stuff. And obviously, we'll describe it as off-label, but we will be looking at the non-FDA approved systems, which have become immensely popular, especially in the type 1 space. We have some real top experts who are going to be getting into some details about those and explain some of the nuances of those and who might benefit, who you should probably steer away from those, and how to utilize them effectively.
Terrific. Gary, is there anything else you think people should know about this conference?
We'll be looking at matching patients to devices. That's something that's often overlooked. And from our standpoint, it's easy to just throw a bunch of brochures at somebody and say, here, you pick. But it really helps to be able to provide them with some meaningful insight about the various devices and systems so we can guide patients. We're not going to make the decision for them, but at least we can point out certain things and help them make a more educated choice about the types of systems that they're going to use. I remember decades ago when I went on my first pump, there weren't a lot of choices, and I was just told, here, this is the one you're going to use. That's really changed now. The idea now is the user is the one that should make the choice, and they should base it on worthwhile, up-to-date information and impartial information. And I think everybody who attends the conference will be given tools to help patients accomplish that. We'll be providing detailed comparisons of different systems so that you can guide patients appropriately and point out the unique aspects of various devices and be able to let the patient know about those. Apps are another area, besides devices themselves, but there's so many applications out there now. We're going to be spending a fair amount of time looking at those and being able to discern between what's a worthwhile app, what's safe, what's been vetted properly. And we'll offer some insight about ones that a lot of clinicians find really helpful. And I think everyone will come away with a short list of apps they may want to start utilizing on a more regular basis. They don't just help the patient manage better, but as clinicians, they save us time too. I'll tell you, we're going to wrap up the session on day 2 with a little competition between the newbies and the veterans. We're going to probably look at people age 50 and older and people age under 50 in a battle of wits and see who learned more during the conference. So whether you're age 50 or up or below age 50, you want to come out and join your side and we'll see who knows more.
Can I have to bet money on one of those sides? So be very curious to see who wins in the end.
You think technology, the younger folks would snap it up, but there's such a thing as experience that comes into play as well. So it'll be an interesting little competition.
Again, for that alone, I'm there. So Gary, this has been terrific. Thank you so much for your time. Can you tell anyone who's interested in registering where they can go, what they can do, and any other details that would be important to them?
And the easiest thing to do is there's a webpage dedicated to the conference. It's diabetestechconference.org, diabetestechconference.org. You go to that site, all the details are laid out. You'll see the topics. You'll see how to register. It's being held at the Fairmont Chicago Millennium Park Hotel, which is a really nice place. It's going to be a fun meeting, not just a lot of learning opportunity, but as a co-chair, along with Diana Isaacs, I can promise you we're going to have fun at this meeting. You don't want to miss it. It'll be a great place to be first weekend of December. And all of us are, always looking for CE credits, certainly for our certification reapplications. And attendees of this program can get up to 8.75 CE credits applicable towards that. So it's another perk. Anyone who's an ADCES member also gets a $200 discount on the program.
Thanks again for joining us, Gary. And thank you for listening to this episode of The Huddle. Make sure to download the resources discussed on today's episode. You can find them linked in the show notes at diabeteseducator.org/podcast. And remember, being an ADCES member gets you access to many, many resources, education, training, network opportunities, etc. Learn more about the many benefits of ADCES membership at diabeteseducator.org/join. Thanks again.